Well, good morning, good afternoon, and evening. Today is Sunday, September 22nd, and you are watching the Viewscreen. I'm your host, Amy Nelson, and
I'm your host, Kelvin Wood. The Viewscreen is your weekly Star Trek magazine show, which is streaming live on YouTube. We're bringing you the news, features, special guests, but lots of love for our Star Trek friends and family all around the globe.
well, we want to give a huge shout out to our live viewers. Hello, hello. Nice to see you out there. Drop us a line in the chat. We love knowing you're out there, and give us some questions to ask. Now, if you're not watching live, go ahead and catch us on replay on YouTube, or you can also find us as a podcast. Just search the Viewscreen, and we're there on all the players.
If you are a returning viewer, welcome back to the show. We really appreciate all of your support. But if you are new here, welcome, and a massive thank you for finding us. Please remember to hit the like and subscribe and alert buttons there on YouTube to make sure you never miss an episode of the Viewscreen.
Yes. Smash that like button. We need those. Get those. You can also share it with your friends, and you can join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, to continue our discussion. And my favorite place is our Discord server, and we've got the links right there in our show notes. So go ahead, join those places. And yes, oh my gosh, we have a lot of viewers. Hello. Hit that like button. Hello, JJ.
Oh, hi, everyone. Oh, Amy, how are you? How has your week been?
Oh my goodness. It was crazy at work. I'm transitioning to become a school counselor, and I'm at a behavior school this year where all the kids, if they get kicked out of their regular homeschool, then they get sent to my school for a period of time, usually 6 to 9 weeks. And these kids have troubles, and their lives are not good. And I've had to deal a lot with this. And it makes me grateful that I have something to look forward to on the weekend, something lighter, something to almost escape. Because this week, some parents just are not. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're doing their best. But what I see my kids go through was a tough week, Kelvin. Was a tough week.
Must be hard not to bring that home with you.
Yes, but we have Star Trek and we have talking to you. So how was your week?
I'm really, really well. I don't think any of my work drama is equivalent to the kind of mental anguish that yours causes, but I've also had a bit of an extension of my role, and they've kind of thrown two different jobs at me, but kind of, expecting you to do two jobs in one for exactly the same amount of hours and benefits. And it's just a little bit of a juggling act at the moment. So I too am very grateful for the weekend. And I always inform my boss that I've got my other job at the weekend, which is Star Trek podcasting. Thank you very much. Which is equally as important, although it doesn't pay the mortgage. But yeah, I'm really, really glad to see you and to see all of our viewers today. I'm going to get the excuses in early today because there is somebody who's not present today. Our producer David is away with his lovely fella Frank. So Amy and I are going to be pressing the buttons in the background. So there may be a few dodgy transitions, a few missing logos, links. Bear with.
No, and we definitely are a little more stressed because David helps us out so much. He's behind the scenes, and when we're busy trying to push buttons, and so if we just see befuddled, then now you know why. David, come back to us.
I promise he'll be back next week. And while we're on our little intro as well, I'd just like to wish a very happy birthday to my brother-in-law, Edward, James's brother, whose birthday is today. So hi, Edward. He listens to us on the podcast version when he is driving around for work. So a very happy birthday. Edward?
Well, I had the pleasure of meeting Edward and was actually there celebrating when he graduated from university. So that was wonderful last year. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Right. Well, that's enough of our woes and our friends and family. Shall we see what we've got coming up on today's show?
I would love to. I'm so excited.
Okay, coming up today.
Yes, go ahead. Kristin is here with the news. Hello.
And from Hailing Frequencies Open, we're welcoming Damian Effler to the show. Hey.
Hey. And we are also joined by the wonderful vocal talents of Stevie Moore.
Wetting his whistle there or getting ready. So we've got another packed show for you today with lots and lots of guests. So, shall we begin?
Yeah, we shall.
Oh, a bit ropey on the music going on. The first blooper of it. Okay, so let's get cracking. In a change to our usual running order, we know we normally bring you Kristin first with the news today. So Kristin is coming up a little later on in the show. And so Kristin fans, don't worry, she will be back. That is because our first guest is a man in demand who has a gig later this evening. So we may have to drop off the show before we actually drop off ourselves. So as we welcome Stevie Moore, as we introduce him, let's see a little bit of Stevie's talents. You get like a liar into a smile, these guys. I thought by now.
Wow.
Stevie, a very warm welcome to the Viewscreen.
How are you doing?
Really well, really well.
Thank you so much for coming on and fitting us into your busy schedule. You are in high demand.
I am. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know what's happened. 1 minute I were a kid dreaming of doing it, and the next minute there's too many shows going on. It's crazy. But thank you for having me. Nice to meet you both.
And you. I know we've chatted a lot online over social media, but this is the first time we're properly speaking to each other. Yeah. I guess if this classes as properly. So your entertainment, your singing that's your second job, isn't it? You have a day job on top of all this. You must be shattered.
Yeah. I've actually asked for a few Sundays off because I need some me time. But during the week, it's only supposed to be a Tuesday and Wednesday job for Mind, the charity Mind. So it's a mental health organisation, and I'm a peer support worker. So I'm using my own experiences to help others, and they help me as well. You know, they don't realise it, but they help me too. Yeah.
Wow. I'm feeling a little bit inadequate there. So I've got Councillor Amy Nelson, I've got you, Stevie, working for Mind, and I'm just the corporate one, making all the money and being evil.
Stevie, that is amazing. I love that and wish that we would have more peer, counselors like that. It's so important now that I'm seeing that in the counseling world. Wow.
I agree completely. And there's so many things that I never even thought about. I can't talk about it, but I'm in a situation right now where I'm thinking, what would they do in Star Trek with this situation? I found out something that someone else doesn't know, and by telling them this, it might cause more damage than good. And I'm stuck in the middle. I need to speak to somebody higher up. But you never know what situation you're going to get, do you, in this kind of job?
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
So clearly, I'm sure our viewers and listeners will tell by the accent, you're in my neck of the woods. So you're here in the UK, over in lovely Yorkshire, on the wrong side of the Pennines. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Stevie. How did a love of Star Trek growing up translate into becoming a lounge singer?
Good question. I remember being a kid at school. Like I must have been 6, 7 years old, and every Wednesday at 6 o'clock on BBC Two, they used to play the original Star Trek, and my mum used to watch it religiously. And honestly, looking at this, you'd never believe it, but I used to think, oh no, she's going to make me watch Star Trek tonight when I get home. As a kid, that's how I felt about the original series. And then about 4 years later, my mum bought some videotapes of The Next Generation for my brother. He wasn't very keen on them. So I said, I'll tell you what, I felt bad for her. So I said, tell you what, I'll have the videos, I'll watch them. And from then, I was hooked. Encounter at
Wow.
Farpoint onwards, that spilled into Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, all of them. I just love them all, you know, and it's how that blended into singing, I'm not quite sure. It just did. I were always around singers as a kid. My family were. My mum was a club singer as well, and I actually joined one of her bands one year, and I did one gig for him when I was 17, and the agent called the day after and fired me and said that I was terrible, like a rabbit in the headlights. That's
Wow,
exactly what he
gosh.
said. I never thought for a minute I'd be doing this all these years later. I'd like to speak to that agent now. I'd like a word. To be
Wow.
fair, you were probably right. I was young, I was terrified. So, you know.
So 17 is not as young as I actually envisaged you saying. If I was to ask, you know, when did you get into it? A lot of people who are performers do tend to start, you know, either at school or kids. So
Yeah.
were you not in kind of school performances or plays? Is it just some? How did you discover you had this voice?
I just rehearsing at home. I was singing, you know, to myself, and I was singing songs that I'd heard my mother singing. My first song I ever sang, I waited till she'd gone out, and I picked up her microphone because I'd seen how she worked the machine, and I started singing "Paper Roses." I don't know if you know that song, an
I don't.
old song.
Mhm.
I didn't understand the lyric, and to be honest, I didn't even start singing as a job until I was late 20s, late 28, 29 years old. And even then, even though I'd found this voice, I still couldn't look at anybody while I was singing. I got the microphone and I'd do this, and I just couldn't look at anyone. So somebody said, why don't you go into care homes and do some care home shows, you know, for the
Oh.
elderly? They
Yeah.
won't even know you're there. This is not how it went. So I thought, okay, I can do this. It turns out care homes, they care more than anywhere else. You know, the
Mm.
attention was very, very on me. And you know, they didn't want the White Cliffs of Dover and We'll Meet Again like I thought. They wanted 1980s. They wanted Billy Ocean.
Oh.
One elderly gentleman wants Little Mix. I don't know if you've heard of Little Mix there, but so I had to start mixing it up. And it was such an experience, and I got to know all these new songs. And then I got a phone call one day. I'd been putting videos online on YouTube and things like that. And it was a manager, I won't say his name, but Crossfire Management, they were called. And he said, Elton John's heard you singing his song, and we'd like you to re-release it. And I won't repeat what my first reaction was. I told him to F off, if I'm allowed to say that. I thought it was somebody winding me up.
Right.
But it was genuine, and we released an EP. The song was called Original Sin. It was a cover of Original Sin by Elton John.
Wow.
From there, I went with another manager, another agent. So my manager and my agent are very separate entities. The
Hmm.
agent gives me the club gigs that I do at the weekend. My manager was working on the recorded stuff. They didn't even know each other. So I was trying to keep them happy, doing the care homes, doing various festivals like Pride. And somewhere in the middle of all this, my voice just said no. And it stopped. I was singing Every Day by Buddy Holly in a care home, and my voice stopped. And I cried outside the care home because I couldn't communicate.
Right.
Something
Yeah.
had gone awfully wrong. This was 2013, 14. I spent the next 18 months not being able to speak. I couldn't work.
Oh my
It,
gosh.
Yeah, I had to go to the job centre for benefits because I couldn't get any money any other way. And when I had those appointments, they had to give me my own private room because they couldn't hear me. So I had to be very up close to the advisor. We'd have to have a security guard because I had to be that close to her and they didn't know me. I felt like a criminal. And the only job that they offered me in 18 months was working in a call centre with no voice. So
Wow.
it were a really, really dark time of my life. And I felt disabled.
Right.
You know, like the episode, it's only a
what caused
I know
it? What caused it, Stevie? What was the reason you lost your voice?
Sorry, I'm having some signal issues. Can you still hear me?
We can, yeah.
Okay. It was nodules. I got nodules on my vocal cords.
Right.
They put the camera up the nose, down the throat. They made me sing with a camera down here.
Ouch.
To this day, I can't remember what I sang, but I know I did. And yeah, they said that I needed an operation. So I did what everybody does, what we shouldn't do. And I Googled this operation to find out that one person in history died of this operation. And that was enough to put me off it. I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. So instead I had 18 months of vocal therapy. And every day I had to do various exercises such as hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo, do all that. I used to do it that much. I'd do it on a bus and forget people didn't know. I must have looked insane, but and eventually I thought, you know what, I need to get back singing again. So I came off my benefits without a plan, just to pressure myself into getting work, and it did. It worked. I got a few pub gigs, a few club gigs. My agent called me again and said, let's pick up again where we left off. It's just been an incredible decade. I'm very tired. I need sleep.
Well, I think we've got some lovely photos of you to show that we've got of your performances, etc. So let's bring them up so people can. We've heard you in action. Let's see you in action and your love of Star Trek. So this one, it looks like you're combining your talents here. So where was this that you got to sing in a Star Trek uniform?
I think that was. There's been a couple. Because I used to have the uniforms as a kid. I've not bought a proper uniform like this until now. So thank you so much for asking me on here, because you've reignited my love of this stuff. Is it a Spock uniform that you're seeing?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that was just a cheap one that I found on Amazon for Halloween, basically. I wanted to go as Spock. So even though I'm not wearing him there, I did have the ears, but they were too big. They were like huge. So I'm not wearing them in that picture, but yeah, I did wear them at one point. I should have sent that, but I forgot about that photograph.
So, Stevie, it looks like you have been a Star Trek fan for many, many years, because I just have to, everyone, if please watch on YouTube, because look at this cute picture. You are so cute.
Oh no, which one is it?
It's the one where you're holding DS9.
Yes.
Oh,
and in a corner of your wall space has posters up. Like, is that in your room?
That was my bedroom as a kid, and it wasn't just that corner. The whole room was, you couldn't see the wallpaper. It just, in fact, we had, I now believe I've got an element of autism that's never been diagnosed, but we actually had an education officer come to the house because I didn't like going to school. I didn't mind the work, I just couldn't integrate with the other kids. Deep down, I knew that I was a gay man, and back then it wasn't as open as it is now. Didn't really have anybody to talk to, so that impacted on my schooling days. So the education officer came to my house, and when they saw my bedroom, they had concerns with it. Everything was meticulous. I had a plant at 13, 14 years old. I had a big plant that, I looked after it religiously. I didn't know, but in my room, they actually moved some of my models. And when I came in, I moved them straight back, not realizing that they'd done it. But never got diagnosed with autism or anything like that. It was just, that was my outlet, Star Trek, just, it's an escape, innit? It's a hopeful escape. And it still does the same thing for me today.
And was it an escape, or was it, did you see yourself in Star Trek? You hear a lot of people describe like a connection with a particular character on the show, or what was it about Star Trek that made you kind of feel comfortable and welcomed and accepted?
Good question. I've never asked myself these questions. I did have straight away Beverly Crusher. I loved Beverly Crusher. I don't know what it is about her. Gates McFadden, well, Cheryl McFadden, amazing actress, but she had such a warmth about her, and I always felt safe when she was on screen. And I know that sounds a bit bizarre, like a motherly figure kind of thing. That's not to say that I didn't have my own mum who was amazing and still is. But I just felt that's where I thought, oh, you know, I think I might like medical. And I'm wearing blue now, not just because I like blue, but, you know, mental health. If that was in Star Trek, I'd be wearing this as a counsellor. So there's another reason for this uniform. Wesley Crusher, I think, you know, when I were a kid, I looked up to him, and I think he was one of my first crushes, you know, ironically. And I just thought, I hope I look like him one day. And I tried to get my hair the same as him and everything, even though it just easily does that now. Back then, I tried to look like that guy. And it was actually because of him that I watched Stand By Me and started moving away from Star Trek a little bit and watching other things. And that's when I started developing more. But there were a few years where Star Trek was just in the background, but it's always been there. I've still been collecting things even when I weren't watching it as much. And it's only the last couple of years, you know, since Picard, Strange New Worlds, Discovery, that I've really got back into it. And Lower Decks. Oh, I love Lower Decks.
Yeah.
I love them all.
Well, it seems I've got a picture of you on a horse in a uniform. And Stevie, I also had horses. So how long were you riding?
That photo might be a little bit deceiving. My dad is the horseman. He lives down south because him and my mum separated. But when we'd go and visit him, he'd show us all his horses and he'd teaching us how to ride. I can't remember much of it. I do remember that photo being taken, and I remember a little bit about being on the horse, but that's it. The rest is a blur. I remember the uniform that I'm wearing. I wore it everywhere. Everywhere. He took me to an exhibition in London. It was the first time I'd been to London. And they had the actual model of the Enterprise C and a lot of the ornament. I didn't appreciate it at that age because I didn't realise what I was looking at. I was too young to understand. But you know the blue dress that Councillor Troy wears, the flowy one? I've actually touched that. And at the time, I didn't even know how important that would be to me as I grow up. But yeah, that's why I was wearing that. We'd been to an exhibition in London. That's why I was with my dad.
I thought you was channeling Star Trek Generations and giving it Picard in the uniform.
that was actually just before Generations, I think, at 92, 93, something like that.
Wow.
So yeah, and then when I saw Generations, I was like, whoa, Picard is completely ripping me off here. I did that first, you know.
So, Stevie, I'd like to ask you about what I would perceive as quite an obvious crossover between singing and Star Trek. Obviously, on Deep Space Nine, we had Vic Fontaine, who unfortunately we just lost a few weeks ago, the lovely James Darren. How did you kind of resonate, connect? What are your thoughts of kind of that aspect of DS9 with its lounge singer?
Again, Deep Space Nine, that aired before I ever started singing. But watching him, I used to feel completely intimidated because I used to think that is so what I want to do. You know, I'd love to do what he does. And that's why when I were in care homes, I started singing like Frank Sinatra and other crooners. And I always had Vic Fontaine in my mind. No one would understand that if I told them. They wouldn't even know who Vic Fontaine was. But it was always there for me in my brain, like. And when I first started, I thought, wow, what if I start singing in pubs and clubs and then I'm even more like Vic Fontaine? And never thought it'd happen. But then with the throat damage, I had to stop singing the big songs like My Way. I used to love singing My Way and things like that. And I can't quite do it the same now. I've just got to use what I've been left with. But it definitely helped. And like, again, Only a Paper Moon, it helped me when I lost my voice as well.
Right.
And people didn't understand why I saw that as a disability. I've lost something physically and mentally that it wasn't just my job, it was a hobby, it was a friend. That's how I saw it. And when that went, I felt disabled. The loss as well, Deanna Troy, when she loses her abilities, that episode helped me a lot.
Yeah, like a hidden
absolutely.
disability almost. You know, everyone would see that you're healthy, you're getting on, but this wonderful talent has been taken from you.
Everything fell away slowly. And I think at that age as well, when you've got this phone call about Elton John, you're getting offered this, you're getting offered that, to be up there and then suddenly you're in a job centre, you can't get work, you can't speak. That was very difficult to get through. And again, Star Trek just kept getting me through it, without me even realising it. Do any of you just put Star Trek on in the background as comfort?
Yeah.
On mute. I think like without the words, if I'm on a call for work, it will just be off the side and I can just glance and I will know exactly what the words are being spoken. You don't even need to hear it. But it is that comfort blanket, isn't it?
Absolutely. And if I'm allowed to talk about this as well, 2018 came along and I'd gone back singing. I got with another manager, another label, and I released a couple of songs. One of them was called You Got This, which did quite well. And as things were going really well, I lost 4 loved ones in 2018, all from different unexpected issues. Am I allowed to talk about this?
You can talk about whatever you want, Stevie.
Okay, so I lost a friend in January 18. He took an accidental overdose for painkillers for a bad back. So it blows my mind that he took painkillers to get out of pain and never woke up. That's just, it's just crazy. July, my ex-partner took his own life, and that's a whole long story, but I was in charge of the coroner, the funeral. His parents paid for it, but I had to sort out, all that kind of stuff. My mum's sister, my Auntie Joanne, she was only 43, I believe, and she passed away of cancer, which was a massive shock. And then in October, November, my friend Donna in Buffalo, New York, she passed away of gangrene from diabetes. And I just lost it. And I had to keep singing and pretending that my life was amazing and flirting with the audience and all this. And something just broke. And I started drinking to sleep at night. And bit by bit, different parts of my life were just falling apart. And again, Star Trek were getting me through all that, and I've now ended up as a mental health worker due to all these things, because I've tried to put a positive spin on all these things, What can I do? Not to give these things reason, because no one deserves to go through that, but just to give some positivity to the end of it,
And I guess some of the training and learning about these matters would obviously start by helping with your own healing, but then you reach the point where you can then transfer your learning to help others with the grief and their troubles as well. So, wow, it's such a transformational story of your life, how something so terrible can lead to a career change, and I say, trying to put a glimmer of positivity back after such misery. So well done, and thanks for sharing that with us as well, Stevie. That's really powerful stuff.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing, because it's so difficult, like when you're in it, to try and reframe it and get that turn of how can I make this better, because you get in this downward spiral and the momentum is just coming down at you. And, it can be, again, Star Trek just on in the background, and it will be one idea of, oh, you can be grateful for, oh, I have something to look forward to because this is a cliffhanger, like that, like it. And that smallest thought will change your thinking and perspective and get you through it so that you can embody the Star Trek philosophy and create something better because of the tragedy. Wow,
Absolutely.
it's powerful.
I agree. You know the scene at the end of Picard season 3 when you see, spoiler alert if anyone has seen that, turn it down. Yeah, the scene where the Enterprise lights up in the museum.
Yeah.
When I saw that, it were like bookends from the start of my journey to all the stuff that's happened in between, and then she was back at the end.
Yeah.
And I can't put into words what that scene made to me, but I cried.
Mm-hmm.
I was just gone, you know.
That particular scene, actually, I watch that often. Sometimes you just feel a bit numb. You're not really feeling anything. You're not feeling happy. You're not feeling sad. I will play that just on YouTube to make me feel something, and I will cry every time I watch the end of Vox.
Oh,
goosebumps.
And that's my little kind of mental
therapy.
health.
Yes.
A little instant relief. Let's talk about something a little happier. You've got your gig tonight. Now, obviously, we're from the same neck of the woods, so I understand, what we mean by a club singer and kind of what that conjures up. But for maybe our international audience, tell us a little bit about what a normal gig for you looks like.
They're always different. If it's a club gig, it's these people go to this club in the local area for a drink. They play games. It's a meeting place. It's a community kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they always have a different singer on every week. People do come to see you, but they're not all there to see you. They've just got to put up with you for the night. So if it's not you, it's someone else. We get there, we set up. They play a game of bingo while I'm getting changed. Then I'll do half an hour singing, and then I come down. They play more bingo or whatever the game may be. Then I get up for another half hour. Then we get down, more bingo, or again, whatever it may be. It's always the same kind of setup. But it's some clubs you get where, they don't like to get up and dance, and it's not really a done thing. I saw this last night. There was a gentleman at the back doing this in the background, and I shouted to him and I went, "Go on, pal." And then as soon as I said that, he stopped. He was like, "Oh no, someone's seen me." And I was like, "Why did I say that?" But then other clubs, you start singing and they're straight up dancing all the way through. You never know what you're going to get. But I've never been heckled, and that was the thing I was scared about. Sorry, this keeps coming undone. I was scared about hecklers when I first started, and I thought I was going to get tomatoes thrown at me and everything. But it's never happened. And I get this feeling at the end of every gig, like, yes, I fooled them again. I feel like that after every time. I've got through it again. But it's just working. And I think my mum sings with me. She gets up for the last half an hour, and she does different kind of music, like "Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow," "Be My Baby," the classic girly tunes, as she calls them. And I think it works. People appreciate the mix and mother and son, which sounds odd to be singing with your mother, but
I think it's lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So does Robert Picardo. Somebody did me the cameo video, and he sent me a video saying how lovely it is that I sing with my mom, and I nearly fainted when I got that video because I had no idea it was coming. But yeah, the doctor knows that I sing with my mom. That's enough for me. I can die happy.
Amazing. Oh well, Stevie, I'm conscious that you have got a show to get to tonight, and it looks like your uniform is taking itself off before you have to get into your tux or whatever. Well, we all know the risks that come with a Starfleet uniform. So if you're not going to be here at the end when we do our usual wrap up, why don't you tell the viewers and listeners where they can find you if they're interested in seeing you on social media or anything you want to promote? Where can people find Stevie Moore?
Good question. I should have got all this prepared before I came. I am on TikTok. I think it's just Stevie_Moore, something like that on TikTok. Instagram, I think it's the Stevie Moore. Facebook, Stevie Moore. I'm kind of everywhere, so wherever you go, you'll find me. And I just want to say thank you so much for having me, and it's been brilliant. And I've purposefully not watched this show because I wanted to be surprised about everything. So I'm glad I did that. And now I'm going to go back and watch everything you've ever done.
Hey, there we go. We've got another subscriber, Amy.
Yay! Well, listen, Stevie. JJ in the chat says this is a magical interview with Stevie. Thank you all for being vulnerable and human and sharing all of these experiences. And I echo that. So thank you, Stevie.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And let me know when you want me back. I'll come anytime.
Absolutely. And all the very, very best for your gig tonight. If you're around in a little bit, great. But if this is the last we see of you of the episode, we understand. And thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Live long and prosper and all that.
Live long and prosper. Bye-bye, Stevie.
Wow, that was so wonderful. I had not met with him or interacted. You found him, and so glad that you did. What an amazing story of, gosh, just a roller coaster ride that is life. Oh,
yeah, it's great. Okay, so I'm a bit discombobulated today, Amy, because we're out of our normal sequence.
Yes.
Thinking, when do we do the break? But we're not getting a break. We're going to go straight into our second segment and welcome our next guest. Amy, I shall let you introduce Damian.
Yeah, so we have with us Damian Effler, who is a host of Hailing Frequencies Open. Damian, welcome to the Viewscreen.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my goodness. So you run a podcast, and how long has that been going? I'm just so curious.
Well, so I should be clear that the podcast is run by the Mike Jones. This was his brainchild. I'm a mere co-host. But yeah, he started it, I'm going to say about 4 or 5 years ago. He did it with our friends Ben and Aaron, and that went for a couple years. And this sort of current incarnation, which is, hi Mike Jones in the chat. This current incarnation, which is Mike and myself and our friend Lanita, I would say we've been doing it for we're coming up on 2 years together as a group, doing this together. And we kind of we were doing it kind of like like anybody, a chance to talk Trek with our friends. And we kind of looked at it like that for kind of a while, until we started getting signs that people were listening, and it sort of changed it for us a little bit. But we've been having a really good time. Come to find out, if you have like 0 qualifications and you ask a stranger on Twitter to come on your podcast, they almost always say yes.
Yeah.
So we've had some like really amazing people come on and talk with us, and it has been, we've sort of found a real sense of Trek community from doing it.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that the best part of, getting into podcasting? Like, I've found like this Trek family that I never knew. I started podcasting in 2016, the end of 2016, and it has changed my entire Trek experience, this whole podcast world.
It really has. And I mean, it has, Mike and Lanita and I are like such a crew now. Like, they are my people, like down deep. But we, Mike and I went to the Gaze in Space convention in Philadelphia in April. And that was our first time, like, as, we've been to conventions like really as kids. And this was our first time kind of like out in the world. And we were, they had a really like top tier list of Trek celebrities there. Kate Mulgrew was the headliner. We were all very excited about that. But when we came away from it, I think we realized that the fun of it was all of these other people that we met. That Kate Mulgrew is amazing. She's not Captain Janeway. That is in all of our collective heads. But that the real magic of it was connecting to all of these other fans, and walking into a room of strangers where you can literally talk to anybody. Like, that was really something intense and new for me that I loved right off.
And it's so crazy. I think we've spoke about this offline when I was talking to you about the Star Trek cruise, and like final day of the cruise, when they're literally ripping down all of the promotional items to get it reset for the next cruise, which is the 80s cruise. We all feel so dreadful. And that kind of, when you pull into the port and you're giving everyone a hug, see you next year. Oh my God, it's the grief of it is unbelievable. So like post-con blues, for anyone who's not experienced it, it's a real thing to kind of have to go back to adulting in your day job after just being in the Nexus for a few days.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And it, you know, I mean, and we all have these sort of like, you know, and in our group, we all work in theater in various ways. That's, you know, sort of part of our viewpoint that we kind of bring to it. But yeah, after that con, like we went back to work, and, you know, people are all very nice. Like, oh, that's so nice for you that you have this thing, you know, but at a certain point they're like, okay, we don't really want to hear about this anymore. So then what do? We record a podcast and we talk about it to people who do. So, you know, it works out.
Brilliant. Let's share some of your material so our viewers and listeners can hear a bit more. So we love here on the network kind of celebrating the rest of the Star Trek podcast community.
Yes.
And I'm making some links. So here we've got some pictures. I take it that's Mike and Lenita on the picture.
Yes, that's Mike Jones front and center, and then Lenita in the gold uniform. Yes.
Wonderful. I first came across your podcast actually through our network. I know you guys were all on Trexperts quiz with
We were
Davey.
on with Davey. We had the best time.
Yes.
We are not. We learned that we're not Trexperts. That was our takeaway. We have many other things to offer other than maybe our trivia expertise, but we had a great time, and I would venture to say that Davey probably had fun with us, even if we were sort of.
He did. He said, and I would disagree with you. I remember listening in the car thinking, Damian knows his stuff. I might have to go up against him someday.
Well, it's so funny. So we just Lenita and I just did like a little collab with Too Proudly Go, which is another group out of New York City. They're an amazing nonprofit charity, and they have like a live watch party every Saturday in New York, which we're like, how did this exist so long? And we only just came to it. But yes, we all play the trivia, and not to brag, but I did win trivia night last night at Too Proudly Go. So I have some trivia credibility.
Yay.
Very good. Well done. So, I mean, tell us about the podcast. Tell us some of the themes, the formats. How does it run? I mean, we've listened to episodes. You know, I think in terms of a theme, I said Lenita's definitely got a thing about Tasha Yar. That's something I would. I'm Team Tasha, just so you know.
Yeah, same. I mean, how can you not be? Well, that is one of the running things. Yes, I should address that right away. Is that we are stuck on some of the 90s era next generation issues that some of us are well into our 40s and can't get past, like Dr. Pulaski versus Dr. I mean, come on, we're still talking about this 30 years later. But that we found out that as Mike and I, as gay men who grew up watching Next Generation as children, really had like this early connection to Tasha Yar. We loved her. We thought she was badass. Team Pulaski. We were Tasha Yar fans, and Lenita is brings this whole different perspective to the pod. She discovered Star Trek as an adult and was like, I like this. I'm starting at the beginning. She started with The Cage. She watched all of TOS first. Like, she went in order, and she has watched it all, but has this adult fan perspective, new fan perspective, whereas we are we had Star Trek instead of Friends when we were kids, so we come from that kind of background. But come to find out, she was like, yeah, Tasha Yar is terrible, and she deserved what she had coming to her. And so yeah, that is something that we have guests on, and she's like constantly recruiting allies on that issue. So I wish her failure on that. We had Misty Chance on the pod. Yes. Like, she was actually we saw her at the Gays in Space convention, and in the Twitter comments, I was like, come on our podcast, and was not expecting her to just be like, okay, when? And, and she came on, and, we had a nice long. She, you know, being in Manchester and most of us being in New York City, she stayed up very late,
Wow.
full face to talk to us. And we you know, we have sort of two formats going back and forth. You know, sometimes it's the three of us, and we'll do like a topic. You know, you showed the slide of us as Orions. We just did a deep dive into the Orions, which is surprisingly difficult.
Look at that.
Yes. Yeah, Mike made this of us. Yes. This is the first that this image has been out there, and we are kind of obsessed with this. Yeah, so we actually had a guest on. Our friend Heather Wood came on, and we talked about her friend Sunil, and we talked about the Orions. But oftentimes what we're doing now is we just find people that are doing, this is our friend Luna Dahlia, who does Bar Trek Philly. She started, you know, she's building community through Star Trek, hosting these watch parties at her bar in Philadelphia. And
Wow.
And also she is a very out sex worker who does Vulcan role playing. So we were like, once we learned that, I was like, will you come on and talk to us about that? Because we, so yeah, we've been bringing on all these people who have, who are sort of bringing Star Trek into their larger lives in ways that, you know, I think I was always a very compartmentalized Star Trek fan. It was like in this little intense like box corner of my life. And, you know, I'm starting to see in doing this, all these people who are, you know, kind of breaking down those walls and, you know, bringing it into their larger lives.
Yeah, I heard you say this on your podcast recently about, you know, being a gay man in New York, your kind of fandom didn't really fit with your kind of crew or your mates. And I think going to conventions, you will soon see such a flip reverse. Obviously, the DNI Con was all about diversity, but even if you go to STLV or on the cruise, you will see the gay community of Star Trek fans is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I always have not felt that. It surprises me that gay people like Star Trek. I always felt like I was the only one.
Yeah, it's crazy that you think, and I'm so glad you've had this awakening with it all now. It's so interesting. It was Manchester Pride here a few weeks ago. Obviously, Misty is my local drag queen, and I was just in the bar. Misty was on stage. I was, you know, it was gay pride, so I was wearing a wrestling singlet, but it was Star Trek Discovery uniform, as you do.
Oh my God, I need to see
shouts across the bar.
Where did you buy it?
What rank are you, Lieutenant? Well, here's Commander, and played Kelly Rowland. There you go, as you do. And you know, there's people walking past with little deltas, and you just grab them. You're like, Star Trek fan.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm thrilled that you've met your people and your communities have kind of gone into the Great Link.
Well, and it's interesting. We had our friend Heather Wood on a couple of weeks ago, who is the host of Too Proudly Go, charity in New York, and she was talking about all of the ways that Star Trek. She says, if you're a Trekkie, you're queer to begin with. So you see the world differently. You are not like everybody else. You have like an eye on the future. You are just different. And but she went into this whole idea of chosen family on Star Trek. And you know, I was raised with a very close, like, real family who definitely subscribed to a chosen family. We had aunts and uncles of no relation, like people who were our family of not blood relation. And like, as an adult, I look back and I see that's so much of what was appealing to me about Star Trek, about finding your crew and building those relationships and finding that, you know, we think of that sky's the limit moment at the end of All Good Things, you know, at the poker table, and you're like, that is my family. And that, and how sort of queer that idea is, and how queer people have been creating groups of chosen family longer than we've all been around, you know, history that we probably will never even know, that that is so essential to what makes Star Trek what it is, the idea of those crew connections, you know.
Love that. Love that. Just looking at some of this fabulous artwork here. Does Mike do all the artwork for your show?
I believe he commissioned those cartoons.
Right.
So
they're amazing.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. And it is in that sort of lower deck style. But Mike has done all of the sort of arranging those into our artwork. So the logo that you're looking at right now is a Mike Jones creation. And and he does his he did our theme music. And of course, our favorite clip of the closing, which Lenita and I will not let Mike get rid of, which is the end of Tasha Yar's self-eulogy, where she says hailing frequencies closed. He keeps trying to cut it out, and Lenita and I are like, no, we need to
but for very different reasons. She wants to be reminded of Tasha Yar's funeral, and you want Tasha Yar to be included.
Yes. Oh yeah. And sort of another aspect of this is that we've all been friends for a stupid length of time. I think we realized Lenita and I have been friends for 21 years.
Wow.
Mike and I, through working in theater, and Mike for 16 years, we've been friends with Mike. And so we all, we have a real comfort level playing rough with one another.
Now, was this picture taken at the Chicago convention?
No, this was at the DNI convention.
Oh, okay. All right.
The Gays in Space.
Philadelphia.
Yes. Yeah. Which sort of really opened the door for us to meeting a lot of people who we ended up booking on the pod and becoming friends with, really. So
very good. Yeah.
So I guess that lends the question: if you've got the convention booked now, what have you got booked coming up? Are you going to STLV this time around? Are you going to?
Well, we obviously missed the recent one, but we have. We're kind of taking it one step at a time. There is a Trek, New Jersey, a Creation Con in November. I think it's tough because Mike lives in Florida to get us all in the same physical space together. But I think that we're all going to try to go to the Creation Con. I don't see Mike popping up in the chat to contradict me. So I think that means he's going, which is the first weekend in November in Secaucus, New Jersey. So I think that is that's our next goal for showing up in person. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's so wonderful when you get your whole podcast, group in one photo, and you're like, we're together in person.
Yeah, and you'll get to experience the joy of kind of getting everyone in the same uniform group together. Oh, joyous! So, right?
Yes, which gives me the
opportunity. Scants.
Oh my gosh, the scants! I have seen your pictures of your crew in the scants, and I am very jealous. Because a scant you need to either make yourself or have commissioned, it seems these days.
Yeah. Well, mine was it is still. It's in the wardrobe. It's from an Ovos, but they're right out of sale now. But they do crop up on eBay every now and then. So just make a calendar appointment. Repeat. Search an Ovos scant on eBay. You might get one good price.
Well, it's funny. We had one of our first guests on. We had Sean Farrick, who is a big YouTube presenter. But we had, of course, being who we are, we had him on to promote his Star Trek OnlyFans. But we sort of started talking about his cosplay habits. And I remember just sitting there kind of like, oh, it's so amazing that you have all these costumes. But in my head, I'm like, oh, this guy's got a problem. And then I bought one uniform, and then it was a week later, I had 4. So it is, I know how it goes. And I am just.
Kelvin, you are getting a request that you need to make a Starfleet wrestling singlet design.
Well, if I was making one, that would be out of the question. If I was buying one that someone else had made, that'd be great. But I did find one. The brand is called Coyote. And they've made a royal blue with gold down the side. Oh. And it looks exactly like Discovery season 1 to 3 uniform.
Nice.
If you pop a com badge on it, there you go. There's your Star Trek singlet. So head over to Coyote's website. I don't have any discount codes. I'm not affiliated with them. That's just what I found. Speaking of chosen family. Shall we? I think we've still
Yes.
got Stevie with us. Speaking of uniform addictions, and I think it's time Kristin had a word to say. So let's
Yes.
bring you in to have
When
a
I
chat with
covet
Damian.
Stevie's uniform, that blue, I love it. Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you. I love it.
I have the red version, and I saw that. I thought, well, I should have probably also gotten blue.
I'm thinking of getting red now, thanks to what I've just seen with you. So it works both ways.
A word of warning on the red. I think you get yours from the same place I do. They tried to ship you the season 2 version rather than the season 3, so it doesn't detach.
I've
And
already
it's a
had
bit
the
longer.
season 2 of
You
this.
need to tuck it in. Yeah.
Well, I had a similar experience
Yeah.
trying to buy a season 1 Next Generation gold uniform. I mean, you can probably guess what I was going to do with that, just to provoke my friend Lanita. And they tried to send me a season 3 without like, yeah, we just shipped you this one instead. I was like, no.
That's not what I ordered.
It doesn't work.
They should know, as Star Trek fans are very particular of what season, which episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they
I
actually
bet
think
they
they're
were
going to get
thinking,
past us?
There's no difference between Picard season 2 and 3. I'm like, there is. They're longer. They detach.
I couldn't get out of the season 2 one. I got it on.
Yeah, they're quite slim fitting. I often have to get some help. Yeah. So, Kristin, you've been sat listening, drinking your coffee, and enjoying. What have you got to say to today's guests, to Damian and Stevie?
Oh my gosh. Oof. Stevie, yes, thank you so much for being so vulnerable with what you were saying today. It was beautiful. And I think that we all, can definitely see ourselves as people who have found solace in track. And I always refer when I have it just playing in the background in the house, it's my emotional support noise. And I don't even need to be watching it. I can play the scenes in my head, but just the familiar voices and all of that it's my happy place. So, and whenever I'm sick and I'm in bed, I literally watch Star Trek 2 through 6. And that's how I get myself better.
Yeah.
And Damian, yeah, what you're doing with your podcast is amazing. I love seeing the diversity of guests that you have and the very unique take. And I have to agree, Tasha Yar was never my favorite. I love Denise Crosby, but Tasha, I was like, yeah, I could take her, leave her.
Listen. There, this is a valid point. This is, and I realize that my connection is purely emotional, going back to my 9-year-old self.
Yeah.
I would like to point out for the record, though, Kristin, you're a massive Worf fan, so there's possibly reasons there that Tasha had to step aside.
She had to go. I don't know if I want to say she deserved what she got. No one deserved to be killed by a oil spill. But I definitely preferred how she came back in yesterday's Enterprise and all that. Mike, I agree. She had so much potential, but Denise didn't give the writers a chance to flesh out the character past the first season. Here's my thing. None of their characters were fully fleshed out by the time she was like, I'm leaving. Yeah. Give them a sec. You're just getting into it. So that's my one bone to pick with it. You didn't give the writers long enough to do what they could have done with Tasha. So, but we got Sela as well, so we're not going to be.
We need more Sela.
Thanks, Mike. Oh, did we just become best friends? I think we did.
Wonderful. Well, Damian, I want to ask as well about your podcast, Hailing Frequencies Open. Is it audio only? Do you have a visual on YouTube as well to support? What formats do you deliver in?
Very good question. We are on YouTube. We sort of started mining our Zooms for video content as like for promotional purposes. And then we kind of thought, why are we not also on YouTube? So there is, though we started doing like back episodes also. So there were maybe some where we're not all entirely fully aware that we're going to be seen. So if you go back into our archives, you know, like when someone's not talking, you may see us like picking our nose or something. You know, we're not.
You guys are brave.
We're yes. Well, you know, it's funny because every time we have a mishap, Mike announces, "We're going to cut that out," and then. It never gets cut out, and Lanita is always like, "No, let them hear it. This is the best part. We're real people." Like, okay, nobody doubts that we're real. We're like maybe a little more real than we need to be.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty. Well, Damian, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been great to hear all about your podcast, and thanks for Mike to joining us as well in the chat as well. It's great. Your boss is here to approve you promoting your podcast. I love that.
Well, he also saw me last night fail to remember the actual website at our appearance at the bar last night, which is hailingfrequenciesopen.com. I don't know what was going on.
Boom, you've redeemed yourself. But stick around in the show if you can as well. We'll bring you back on in response to the news. But for now, thank you very much. It's been lovely to hear from you. See you later. Okay.
All right.
I think it's time we took a little bit of a break, and then we were back with Kristin with the news.
Yes. What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, Kelvin, and Kristin. Whether you've got Xbox or Nintendo, check out Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. 2 episodes enter the arena, 1 comes out victorious. Join hosts Joe and Kevin and a guest as they debate which should win the Batleth battle. Grab your popcorn as you listen to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out. Hosted by Mark and Matt. Don your apron for The Food Replicator, where Matthew eats and drinks his way through the Star Trek cocktail and 3 cookbooks. Beam Aboard Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Steven. In order to not repeat it, listen to History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissy and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissy and Thad. Curl up with a good book and delve into Beta Canon with Peter, host of the online Trek Book Club on Twitter, and his new companion, Trek Book Club podcast. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Whether you're a member of Starfleet Federation or Planetary Union, go check out Union Federation, covering current Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Head over to YouTube and watch the Viewscreen live on Sundays, your Trek-inspired talk show hosted by Kelvin and Amy, with Season 2 starting in September for a 10-week run. Spill the tea with Christos while he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with a LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the Tea-Bab. And for our Patreon members, we have the Hive Mind with monthly script readings, Let's Fly, a Discovery reaction show, It's Green, a cornucopia of topics, Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio. Oh.
We have a Hive Mind read today, don't we? If I'm not mistaken, Amy.
We do. And we are going to, have our script reading, and we're going to do a Deep Space Nine Klingon episode. We haven't decided rules of engagement or Sword of Kahless.
Oh, Sword of Kahless,
Any
definitely.
thoughts?
Sword
Which
of
one?
Kahless, absolutely.
Yeah.
Such a
Okay.
better episode. Features a lot more Jadzia Dax.
Okay.
Right. Okay. I think we've kept her waiting long enough. Shall we head over to the newsroom and see what Kristin's got for us?
Yes. There she is.
Hi.
Hi.
And you're catching me an hour of drinking coffee. I am like, what? Ready to go.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Oh,
How has your week been?
good. I'm trying to remember my week. And it's like as soon as Friday hits, I take off my corporate whatever that I wear. And I was like, goodbye, work. I'm a human for 2 days.
Yes.
So I think it was a good week. Yeah. Nothing extraordinary happens, which is sometimes okay. Sometimes
Yeah,
that's okay.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
love
no.
it.
I went thrifting yesterday and found the most fantastic vintage chair for my entryway rework. Oh,
Okay.
I'll be posting a photo later today with it, but and it was like half off. So I was very, very excited. $30.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, what have you got for us this week, Kristin?
What? Well, of course, happy birthday, 34th birthday to Best of Both Worlds Part 2. Oh, I mean, can we just with this episode? It is so good. It is one of those epic ones because Best of Both Worlds Part 1 also left us on quite the cliffhanger that we had to wait an entire summer to get to this episode. So when it did, it was fantastic. And then, of course, this is followed up immediately by Family, which is such a great episode to explore Picard's healing and the actual implications of this two-parter has had on him.
Well, I'm just going to do a shameless plug for
Absolutely.
my other podcast,
Yes,
Union
do it.
Federation, where we are covering all the two-parters. And we covered this one, of course, being the first two-parter of TNG. Such an amazing episode. Man, so good. So good.
So good. So good. And, you know, when we look back on the, you know, when to sort of advise people where to start, sometimes I like, you know, to start with Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and 2, and you will be hooked and you will want to go back and get caught up as to how we got here. So yeah. So happy 34th birthday. It's still a little bit of a mind, you know what, to think that this was three and a half decades ago that this came out. And I haven't aged today. I don't know what you're talking about.
We have not.
No, we have not. Thank you. So, but I'm so happy that we have this amazing content to constantly go back and rewatch. And I love, like I said, it's my emotional support noise in my house.
Yeah.
Next, I don't want to get political, but this did pop up when I was searching. So for those of you who are interested and do lean towards this party, there is a Zoom call coming up for Women of Star Trek for Kamala. And it will be October 3rd. So it's coming up pretty quickly here. You can go to womenofstartrek.com and register for a link to the Zoom call. It's free to register. The big names listed here, but if you go on the website, they have a full compilation of everyone who's going to be there. And literally there is not one name left that is not coming. Everybody will be on this Zoom call. So if it's something you want to take part in, if this is in your camp, you know, no judgment, nothing, go.
Yeah, for the
And
benefit of
I'm
people who are listening, it's
yes,
womenofstartrek.com. I've seen the lineup for this.
yeah,
It's all my, my precious women of Star
yes,
Trek, Michelle Herdsder, Nanar, Denise.
Kate
Denise went on
Mulgrew.
Twitter. Yeah, Denise got some pretty vile tweets, she was saying, for being, for promoting this event of people who are maybe not that way politically minded. And some of the other talents were saying, yeah, they've had the same too, but that makes it all the more important for these things to happen.
Yeah, it's freedom of expression, right? So if both parties want to be able to engage in it, then both parties should be able to without fear of retribution from the other side. So yeah, I do feel bad that they're getting, but I'm also shocked that people are shocked that those on Trek tend to lean a little bit more on the liberal side. I'm like, have you watched the show, Tamar? Right? It's very, I still don't understand it. So anyway, don't want to delve too much into politics because it can get a little scrandy. But this event is looking pretty cool. So for those of you who want to join, I suggest joining. I'm hoping to as well, even though I'm Canadian and will not be voting.
Yeah, I'm hoping
really cool
I
event.
can get on as well in the UK. I'm hoping it allows people abroad to join the Zoom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just for the sake of Star Trek.
Yes, I've checked my calendar and I have nothing on October 3rd. So
Perfect.
Wow, thank you.
Yes, wonderful. And also shout out to Stacey Abrams. What a formidable woman work. So yes, you do you, Queen.
Yeah.
Yes, Matthew. Everybody put it on your calendars. I know Matthew does a lot of work. I see his stories. So shout out to Matthew Dempsey and all the work that you're doing to promote people to vote.
Yes.
Okay, we've also had a lot of talk lately about Star Trek wine. So now we're going to talk about Star Trek coffee and a 4 new flavor release. So this will mean the 6, they already have 2 out there. I had no idea. So they will have Vulcan Vanilla, Captain's Choice, Ractigino Dark Roast, which will probably be my favorite, Federation Roast, thank you, JJ, love you, Captain Janeway's Coffee, Black, and Borg Blend. So pop on over to popculturecoffee.com. Again, I'm not being paid by them. I just love coffee and mugs. So you can get your coffee and then the selection of coffee mugs. They are all hand-thrown coffee mugs. They're painted beautifully. They are just works of art. So I know the last thing my household needs is more coffee mugs. But you know what? Maybe I'll just clean out another cupboard. We'll figure it out because these ones in particular are just absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, popculturecoffee.com if you enjoy being jittery and caffeinated like me.
I love how the Janeway one specifically says black.
Black.
It's like someone going to appear and tell you off if you put milk in it. What's going to happen?
Well, she's one of the reasons that I drink my coffee black was because I saw that and I was like, you know what? If she can drink it, there's got to be something to it. And if it's good quality coffee, you don't need anything in it. Right? If it's cheap, acidic stuff, it's going to rot your stomach and you probably need some milk or something to wash it down. But if you're treating yourself well with good coffee, you can drink it black.
How do you take your coffee, Amy?
Oh, with lots of creamer. As you guys know too well, which you don't have creamer over in the UK.
No, we have every type of milk you can imagine, but that basically white water full of sugar, what you call creamer, no, it's not a thing for us.
That always reminds me of that Beastie Boys lyric off of Intergalactic where they says, I like my sugar with coffee and cream. And when I see teenagers trying to start drinking coffee for the first time, that's very much how it's going. So that just makes me chuckle.
Amy, when you left a load of creamer in our fridge when you were visiting last year to just use it up, I was drinking lots of White Russian cocktails.
Oh,
I was using that
perfect.
for the cream. It was really
Perfect.
good. It worked.
yes. Okay, good. Well, I'm just saying, pop culture, if you would like us to sample and try it, we will review it. Please send it, BQN
Yes.
Podcast. You know.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll take a little screenshot here, throw it on Instagram, and just give them a little tag. If you want to come on the podcast and talk about your product,
Mm-hmm.
you know, hit us up. I think that would be
Exactly.
amazing because, again, I cannot get over these mugs.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I want to try the Rappuccino Dark Roast and Captain Janeway's Coffee Black. Those are the two that I've got my eye on.
Interesting, because I want to try the Vulcan Vanilla. I don't normally get like flavored coffees, but I am
Yeah.
curious. And then the Federation Roast, I think that would be good for me.
Yeah. And then the Borg blend they said had, I believe it was hazelnut notes. So that could also be quite, I know.
Oh, sign me up. I did not know. That's mine for sure. Hazelnut. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm
And Amy,
addicted to hazelnut.
you can put a sugar cube in it.
Oh, yes. Very British.
Very British.
I was thinking
We also got a little leak about the Section 31 movie that there will be a Kamaloid on
Ooh.
track. So he will be playing a physicist Kamaloid, which we have not seen on screen since Iman in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. And I just love this quote. He's like, with Iman, it's like this is a shapeshifter, you want to look good. So yeah, I'll make myself Iman. And then for me, it's like, oh good, I'm going to make myself Sam Richardson. And I find that funny because he's an attractive guy. I don't get why he's hung up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, give yourself
Very
some credit, Sam.
self-deprecating.
So I love that they've got the contacts going and the callback to Star Trek VI, which is one of my favorite original series movies, made my heart happy. So a little bit of a leak of what we can potentially expect in the movie. Yes. Not a lot of information is coming out, though. They are remaining tight-lipped. So good for them, because I was doing a lot of digging this week.
I love the deep cuts, and they're just bringing in these aliens. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about Kamaloids.
It would have been so easy for them to try and retcon Iman's character and say it was a changeling and kind of wrap it up into kind of that. But I love that they've stuck true to that was a genuine species in its own right. That was also a shapeshifter. So good for them.
So technically, then there are, off the top of my head, then I can think of 3 shape-shifting species that we've had on Star Trek. We have Kamaloids. We have, of course, Odo. Oh my gosh, just like changelings. And then the species that Wesley Crusher fell in love with on the Dauphin, I forget the name of the species, but they were also shapeshifters. Yeah. So we have at least 3 separate aliens that can change their form. I like the look of this one. I think the eyes are just chilling and I love it. And who doesn't love Iman? Right. I mean, I would also have loved to seen her on the movie because, oh no, she died. Never mind. Never mind. Well, we'll erase that. Also, this was so fun to watch. The Star Trek family was on Celebrity Family Feud and they were hilarious. They went up against the Deadliest Catch Captains. And if you want to watch it, it is streaming on Hulu. Just watching how they work together, and bless Will Wheaton, he tried. Oh, he was not great. But Celia was probably my favorite. Her personality, she's just a doll. She was just lovely on this episode. So anyway, if you're looking to watch a fun little half-hour episode and just see them outside of their normal uniforms, check it out on Hulu.
So I did watch this live, and they had 2 hours of celebrity. And Matthew Dempsey of the Food Replicator, we were making dinner for his program. So he was over at the house. And so we ended up watching, like, well, where's the Star Trek people? Well, it was the last half hour of the second show. So we were just like Family Feuded out. But so listeners, it is the second half of the second celebrity, just FYI, if you're searching for it.
Oh, Kristin, Joel in the chat has said we have a 4th shape-shifting species. We have the Vendorians in the animated series and Lower Decks. There we go. Nice one, Joel. Well done.
Thank you. Yes. So there's one more to add. And yeah, it's, again, I like the fact that they haven't just melded it into one, right? We have so many that just, you know, just because they all can shapeshift doesn't mean they're necessarily needing to be of the same species. So I enjoy the variety. I like variety.
Yes.
So, yes. Wonderful. I love our audience. They know so much.
Yes.
They know so much. Now, I'm super bummed that my graphics did not translate to this screen, because this is a little series that I'm going to start between now and Hallows Eve. I'm going to call it Spooky Trek, because right now I am on my full rewatch of all my favorite horror movies. But I am going to look at how do these tie into Trek. So this week, my rewatch was Child's Play, which is a fantastic movie for those who love creepy dolls. And as a child, I actually owned one of the My Buddy dolls that Chucky is based after. So when this came out, that doll went into the closet and did not come out for many, many years. But who do we have playing the voice of Chucky and the criminal that gets murdered and possesses the doll is, of course, Lon Suter, Brad Dorfin. I don't have his name up, so excuse me if I pronounce that wrong. So I just cackled when I saw that that's his voice throughout all of the Chucky movies, even through to the currently airing Chucky TV series that's been out for the last few years. And actually, Brad has announced his complete retirement from acting, except for his part with the Child's Play franchise. So I thought that was really interesting. I love Lon Suter. He's one of my favorite characters from Voyager. You know, the psychopathic Betazoid to whom Janeway will be permanently indebted because he saved the ship from the Kazons. And to take him to see that he's kind of got that creepy character that runs through a lot of his roles. And so if you're looking for something outside of Trek to watch this week, I suggest watching the original Child's Play. You get to see him in a completely different setting. And this is, of course, following up to last week when we were talking about Tom Morga, who played Jason in the Friday the 13th. So I will be doing Spooky Trek every week, just to give you a little bit of a combo between what we love Star Trek and the season we're in, which is spooky season.
Woo.
Wow. So I didn't know he was the voice, and I would never have that doll. I don't even know how you survived, Kristin. No,
well, because My Buddy and Kid Sister came out in the late 80s, and my mom thought it would be super cute to buy them for my brother and I. And man, they did not change My Buddy and Chucky much at all, except they made Chucky ginger and My Buddy was brunette.
Yes.
Other than that, it was the same, and it was horrifying. And also, I don't know why we were watching Child's Play at 7 or 8, but we did.
Right.
I couldn't watch it at 43.
No, it's campy though. Like, it's not one of those really crazy horror movies. It's goofy. It's like, you know, the other big ones, Nightmare on Elm Street and all that. They're just goofy movies. Yeah.
I think for spooky season, I can probably just about cope with Agatha. That's all I'm going to get through.
Oh,
Oh.
So that's the news this week. There again, a lot of stuff is staying tight-lipped about the new, like the final season of Lower Decks and Section 31. They're being really, really talented at not slipping any teasers, and it's ticking me off. So
yeah,
if
we
anybody
don't have long to
finds,
wait to Lower Decks. It's only a few weeks away.
Yeah.
So if anyone finds anything, hit up your girl, and I'll make sure to give you a shout out on the news each week.
Love that. Love that.
Well, we have Joel in the chat who says Andrew Robinson is in the third Child's Play too.
Yes, he is. Andrew Robinson will also be making an appearance on Spooky Trek at some point for a different role as well. Because everybody knows I love me my Garrick.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Let's bring Damian back in. Stevie's run off to his gig, so he said goodbye to us all in the private chat. So we'll say goodbye to the viewers on his behalf too. But yeah, Damian, what do you think of the news? Any item grab your interest there?
I gotta say, Kristin, I share your frustration at the lack of Section 31 leaks. Though it's great to hear that other people are excited, because in my little pod network, I feel like the one lone fan who's excited for Section 31.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, me, you just come on over here, because I am so into it. Like that release, the trailer, oh my gosh, got me so excited.
Yes, I'm so curious. And I also felt like I was the fan who was excited for the would-be, won't-be Section 31 TV show.
Yeah. Honestly, any reason to see Michelle Yeoh on my screen, I will jump at it. So if it's a movie, if it's a TV show, in Trek, outside of Trek, I'm watching Michelle Yeoh.
And very excited. I love seeing Sam Richardson on the Comic-Con panel. All of those actors, it was very, very tantalizing. And I, of course, love Sam Richardson and Veep and a number of other things.
Great.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. We've got content coming, right? So Starfleet Academy, of course, is still filming. Section 31 will be coming out, and then of course Lower Decks. So it's there. We just don't know when.
It's in touching distance.
So close yet so far away.
Yeah.
Kristin, thank you as always for all of the news that you've brought us this week. It's been a joy. Damian, thank you. But for now, we'll see you a little bit later. Right. I'm still very discombobulated. I feel like we've just started the show because we've just done the news with Kristin.
I know, and now we're into closing.
Yeah, we're wrapping up. We're done. We're nearly done. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for the viewers, the listeners, and for our guests today, as always. Shall we see what we've got in store next week?
Yeah, what's coming up?
So next week it's Space Week. Next week we are welcoming back Josh Judkins, our beloved friend, to talk astronomy. And I'm also very, very, very delighted to introduce you guys to Dr. Alfredo Carpinetti, who is an astrophysicist, which is a word I very much struggle to say, and also an author as well. So he's got a book coming out soon. So he's going to be telling us about his book, but he is a fantastic speaker. He speaks at lots of conventions about astrophysics, did a fabulous piece all about the world through Geordie's visor. At the recent Destination Trek here in UK. So can't wait for next week and seeing those guys.
Yeah, and Josh just went to down to South America. I'll just let him explain it, but he has been on some amazing trips looking at the stars. So I'm very excited to hear his recent adventures this past year. So, hey.
Wonderful. Right, well, let's bring everyone back so we can do a little bit of a wrap up just to say goodbye to everyone. So, right, guys, where can people find you on the internet? Damian, do you want to start us off, please?
Oh, I screwed this up last night, so I better get it right. HailingFrequenciesOpen.com, and we're on all of the socials as Hailing Freak with a Q, Hailing Freak Open, Instagram, Twitter, and we have just tried to start TikTok. But with mixed results. So
Lovely. Thank you. And Kristin, how about you?
I am on Instagram at kstrats. I can be found on the BQN network on Facebook, just wherever. And on Reddit, of course, my favorite place, with user Garrick's Fan Club.
Lovely. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks,
Thank
Kristin.
you.
And Amy, what about yourself? Where can people find you?
Well, listen, you can find me co-hosting Union Federation. I talked about it, where we are currently covering all of the two-parters on Next Generation. And we cover the new Trek, so we'll be doing that. And we've got a fun plan to go over some Orville characters, because it's a Orville Star Trek podcast. So check us out on Union Federation. Again, find me in our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, and on our Discord server. Again, links are in the show notes down there. So, Kelvin, where can people find you?
Well, if you've had enough of me, you can just wait until next Sunday and then I'll be back here. But if you want to see me in the interim, you can come and find me on the socials at Kelvin's Timeline. That's across most of the socials. All the same there.
Yes. Well, a huge thank you to our Patreon members for your ongoing support of the network and our show. And if you would like to support the network, please go to patreon.com/BQN.
A huge thank you to everyone. But do remember, if Patreon isn't your thing, and you can still support the show by sharing our posts, adding some comments, or just even talking about us with your friends and letting people know that we're out here. We'd be very, very grateful. Thank you.
Well, we have finished the show barely.
Thank you for playing the music. I totally forgot to. Thanks to everyone who appeared. Thank you to everyone who joined in the chat. Great chat this week. David, come back next week and save us from all of this administration. And have a fantastic week, everybody. We'll be back this time next week. But for now, it's time to end transmission. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.